preparing to reopen. What will the world we used to know look like now?
We're writing a playbook as we go.
How are businesses preparing?
We'll have to really design this location by location. Each street is different.
What will happen to childcare?
To drop them off so that I can return to work is a scary thought.
With so many unknowns, how will people cope?
Fighting against each other is actually not going to help us. We need to work together.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Vanessa Welch.
And I'm Mark Ocklum. The governor has laid out a 4-phase plan for reopening Massachusetts, but the details won't be released until next week.
Boston 25 News has been working to get you answers about what the reopening might actually look like from the business and groups most affected. And we're also going to take an in-depth look at what we found for the next 30 minutes.
We'll start with what we know from the state. The governor's phases begin with start, then transition to cautious.
The third phase is vigilant, and the final phase is the new normal. That will be the world we live in once solid COVID-19 treatments are available or a vaccine is produced.
Since those phases came out Monday, we've been asking the governor for specifics on which businesses will be included in each phase. But he's made it clear the state won't rush the process.
This is not a virus to be trifled with or disrespected, and I think it's important for everybody to understand that.
Without guidelines in place yet, we found many businesses are doing what they can to prepare right now. Restaurants will be a major part of kickstarting the economy. Boston 25 News reporter Robert Goulston got a firsthand look for us at the city of Boston's plans to make room for outside tables that will make socially distancing while dining possible.
Cafe Gianna in Dorchester has been serving up its Italian traditions.
We try to survive and pay the bills and keep going.
On a takeout basis only. Now the owner, who is from Sicily, is excited to hear the city has a plan to help businesses reopen with outdoor dining.
We could put easily a couple of tables over here. 1, 2, 3 tables.
Gianna's owner, Nino, says his business's survival is counting on serving his customers again.
We would love to have people sit down in terms of a monetary term, and also because it's kind of weird to have the place empty.
In theory, this car would not be able to park here. The parking spot and sidewalk could be converted into outside dining.
We're not doing any kind of permanent construction changes here. All of this is temporary. Using barrels, cones, perhaps some paint, police sawhorses and the like.
The director of planning at the Boston Transportation Department told us his team is working on a plan to help businesses rework their front sidewalk areas so they can set up their restaurants outside.
We'll have to really design this location by location. As you know, Boston, each street is different.
Businesses say this one step closer to normal business will be a huge boost.
Have the possibility to have some people coming in and sit down and enjoy our food, that would be great.
The planning director telling us that each restaurant would have to apply for the permit for the outdoor seating, and right now they do have a plan to expedite those permits. In South Boston, Robert Goulston, Boston 25 News.
Many local restaurants are getting creative to keep dining safe and maybe even fun. The Kowloon is asking the Board of Selectmen in Saugus to allow them to turn their parking lot into a drive-in theater. We first told you about the proposal last week. The Landmark restaurant on Route 1 says they want to have servers on bicycles delivering cocktails and food to people in their cars while they watch classic films. They hope to put the plan in place by the end of May. And McDonald's announced plans this week to open certain dining rooms. Some seating and tables will be closed off to allow for social distancing, and employees will clean surfaces more often. Workers will wear gloves and masks. Social distancing markers will also be placed on floors, and multiple protective barriers will be put in place.
A new study with visuals is helping us understand the challenge of stopping the spread once restaurants do reopen. The University of Oregon released this simulation to show how airflow can impact COVID-19 spread in crowded restaurants and other buildings. Researchers tell us they hope it will remind people that architecture and air filtration should be a focus. The researchers say it's possible for owners to test the air inside their properties to see if the virus is present.
The virus in the air is a concern for other industries facing reopening. A lot of you have been closely following our reports on concerns at dental offices. One hygienist talked to us anonymously about a lack of N95 masks and other protective equipment. She says drills and other tools also pull particles from blood and saliva into the air. She's asking for high-volume suction devices to try to reduce the presence of those particles.
In a place where There are reports that aerosols can hang in the air for hours at a time. I would, as a patient, I would be extremely concerned about going to an office and lying there with my mouth open in a place where someone else had just previously been.
Employees in a number of fields tell 25 Investigates they have safety concerns about returning to the workplace.
Investigative reporter Ted Daniel has been digging to find out what options worried workers have.
Well, this is new territory for everyone, and the rules are being made up as we go along. For nearly 2 months, most workers have been forced to stay home because non-essential businesses have been closed by order of the governor. The process of slowly phasing out that order is set to begin on Monday. People need to work to get the economy moving again, but for some, it's easier said than done.
My biggest concern is for people in my position, like single parents who have children.
Lana Hart has 2 young boys at home in Harwich, ages 6 and 11. She says she immediately thought of them when her employer, Cape Cod Hospital, called her back to work, scheduling appointments in the cardiac cath lab.
So here you're going to circle, count.
Lana's youngest has an underlying health condition, and she worries about finding childcare for him.
I probably am going to have to take use of that emergency drop-off childcare center. As much as it scares me, I'm going to put a mask on my son who has asthma and is susceptible to pneumonia and hope for the best. I don't even take him to the grocery store, so to drop him off so I can return to work is a scary thought.
We also spoke with a dental hygienist who asked us not to use her name because her employer has not authorized her to speak with the media. She says she works in an office right outside of Boston.
Turn to me, please.
The Massachusetts Dental Society is advocating to have non-elective procedures and cleanings resume as soon as Monday. Extra safeguards, including increased sanitization, PPE, and even temperature checks will be the norm. But she tells us she's worried if that's enough.
There's statistics out there that say that dental hygienists are actually at the highest risk for contracting COVID because of our close proximity with patients. And, if you don't want to go back, then they'll just hire someone else. There's a whole new round of graduates to choose from.
On Monday, Governor Baker announced a plan to reopen the Massachusetts economy in phases. Industries with the least face-to-face interactions will be allowed to open first. And new mandatory workplace safety standards have been issued by the Massachusetts Department of Health. In the staffing and operations section, it says employers must provide training for employees regarding the social distancing and hygiene protocols, and establish a plan for employees getting ill from COVID-19 at work, and a return to work plan. We couldn't find any state or federal guidelines covering employees fearful of returning to work.
And from the employer's perspective and the employee's perspective, we have a climate of uncertainty.
Michael Rustad is a Suffolk University law professor. He says a general concern of being infected with COVID-19 isn't a valid legal argument to refuse work. In other words, if your boss wants you back and you refuse, it could be grounds for termination.
Currently, there isn't enough protection for workers, and there should be some kind of ability to protect your own health and the health of your family, because also by going back to work, you're not only assuming the risk for yourself, but you're assuming the risk for family.
In addition to the new safety standards issued by the state, employers also have federal protections. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, requires employers to provide an environment free from recognized hazards that are causing or are likely to cause death or serious physical harm. OSHA is prioritizing COVID-19 related enforcement. Employees who file OSHA complaints are supposed to be protected from retaliation.
And they have been actually phenomenal throughout all of this and supportive.
As we were working on this report, Lana Hart emailed to tell us Cape Cod Hospital agreed to give her a 30-day furlough so she can stay home with her kids. She's thankful for the extra time and understands it's a benefit most people will not get. Experts say don't be afraid to ask questions. If you have a legitimate fear about returning to work, share that with your boss. Many companies are trying to be sensitive to these concerns. For 25 Investigates, I'm Ted Daniel.
Heading back to work is pretty tough for families without knowing the plans for childcare and summer camps.
We're writing a playbook as we go.
Social distancing and camp, they don't go together.
The different approaches different summer camps are taking right now as they try to look ahead.
Plus, the latest guidelines we do have from the CDC. And then Canada offers a preview of what some say classrooms might look like here in the fall.
Welcome back to our in-depth special, Preparing to Reopen. Governor Baker's advisory panel will release new guidelines on just about everything that's currently closed on Monday. But the CDC released its own guidance late this week. It included an extensive checklist for daycares, including wearing masks, separating children who become sick, and limiting shared toys. You can find those checklists on our website. Right now, daycares in Massachusetts are set to reopen on June 29th.
For many families, summer camps are a huge part of their child care plans in the next few months. But camps in Massachusetts are still waiting for guidance on when they can open, if at all. This week, we talked to local camp leaders about how they're planning during this holding pattern.
Everything's in limbo.
After 13 years leading Medfield Parks and Rec summer camp program, Director Kevin Ryder is rewriting the playbook while waiting for guidance from the state.
We have scenarios in place from how a full day could look to staggered days or staggered starts, half days for everything. One of the things that we're pretty certain about is that groups will be limited to the number of kids that you can have in a group.
Medfield Parks and Rec has hundreds of kids registered already. A poll to families this week showed 85% would still send their kids if camp is open.
I'm confident in the ability of our staff to be able to put together a summer program that will make families proud, make kids happy.
But without a guidebook, planning has not been easy.
I mean, we were looking at a shortened season. We were looking at having the staff come in 2 weeks before and quarantining them.
Camp Bowercrest Director Ken Cotton said there were just too many questions.
We had infectious disease doctors, we had nurses that we were talking to, and it just didn't seem like we had the answers that we were really looking for in order to go forward with camp.
The overnight camp in Amesbury and many others made the tough decision this week to close for the summer of 2020, saying the camp they know and love simply couldn't happen.
You know, social distancing and camp, they don't go together.
Cotton wanted to give families a chance to come up with other plans and says the response so far has been supportive. In Medfield, Ryder is conferencing with other town day camps who are still holding out hope.
And we would not provide anything if we didn't feel that we could provide a safe environment for the kids and a safe environment for our staff. If we can accomplish those two goals and make summer memories for these kids that last a lifetime, we're ready and happy to provide that opportunity for the kids.
You can find the CDC guidelines for camps and schools on our website. You can also find our interview with the head of the YMCA of Greater Boston for more on their plans.
In Canada, thousands of students were already invited back to the classroom, giving us a glimpse at the new normal students could expect once schools start to reopen here. Coming back was voluntary for students there, but some schools put out videos to let everyone know what to expect, like 6 feet between desks, no sharing school supplies, play structures are off limits, and gyms, libraries, cafeterias, they're all closed. One mom says it was a nerve-wracking decision to come back.
September is coming, and I said, you know what, let's try and get things going to get them back into reality, get them back into somewhat of a routine, and to realize what is going to be the new reality.
Fewer than half of students showed up for school.
From beaches to barber shops, we continue our look at what you might be able to expect when things begin to open up in the next few weeks here in Massachusetts.
The business community is saying just because the state says we're open doesn't mean we're all charging back to the office.
What most employees want to change and what they hope stays the same as they return to work. Those survey results when this in-depth special returns.
With Memorial Day weekend just days away, many of us are dreaming about the beach.
But proposed beach rules are causing some debate over safety on Cape Cod. The proposal from the Cape Cod Task Force includes limiting parking at beach lots to 50%, discouraging gatherings of more than 10 people, and requiring face masks on beaches where social distancing is not possible. It also bans games like volleyball.
Another industry eager to reopen, hair salons, and right now they're worried they will not be part of the governor's phase 1. The owner of Salon Capri, who has 3 locations in Boston, says he needs to know sooner than later because it's going to take a lot of his time to get his salons ready for clients. He's planning changes like temperature checks, hand sanitizer, and taped off chairs to make sure customers sit 6 feet apart.
It is becoming pretty clear where you work won't look exactly the same when you return. Hiring firm Robert Half Technology surveyed 1,000 workers to see what they want most and what they expect when they walk back in the door in the coming weeks.
The business community is saying just because a state says we're open doesn't mean we're all charging back to the office. And so I think people are now really evaluating what they expect.
Bill Driscoll with Robert Half says according to their survey, health and safety and clear communication are big concerns for workers. Topping the list of expectations from employers, a tie. 79% of employees surveyed want improved cleaning protocols, and the same amount want flexibility to work from home.
And for so long, this concept of work-life balance, of flexibility for all kinds of different employees has been a tough one for, corporate America to get over. And I think if you talk about silver linings, I think that could be some of the stuff that comes out of this on the other side that we might be able to enjoy going forward.
70% want fewer in-person meetings.
Business travel is obviously something that is going to be challenging in the near term. Zoom is great, Microsoft Teams is great, but I really don't personally think that anything replaces the in-person meeting, and I think that's going to take a little while for people to feel comfortable.
55% of those surveyed want staggered work schedules.
Maybe it's shifts, maybe it's an AM, PM thing, allowing workers to continue to work from home.
52% will expect coworkers to wear masks, especially in closer quarters.
Wearing masks is going to be likely. Looking at the office layout, I think everybody's going to have to make adjustments to be comfortable themselves and to make those around you comfortable.
And Driscoll says he's encouraged by this survey stat. Despite working remotely, 20% said they feel closer to their colleagues now.
I'm optimistic about our resilience going forward.
A teenage employee harassed as a Cape Cod ice cream shop tried to reopen.
The story sparked outrage this week and questions about people's mental health as they head back out.
Fighting against each other is actually not going to help us. We need to work together.
Local psychiatrist gives us tips for coping with the transition anxiety after this.
A young employee quits the Polar Cave in Mashpee after angry customers harassed her shortly after the ice cream shop reopened. The story Boston 25 News first brought you made national headlines. And now we have an update. A GoFundMe for that 17-year-old is now shut down after raising $38,000. The teenager says she'll use that money for college, and she's asking people to contribute to other charities now.
That story has some questioning if everyone is really emotionally prepared to get back into society. I spoke with a local psychiatrist about tips for coping with the stress and anxiety of all the unknowns right now. Psychiatrist Dr. Matt Birmingham tells me reactions to the prospect of reopening the state right now run the gamut. On one end, there's the so-called quarantine fatigue.
The fatigue is kind of reaching a point where we feel we don't want to keep doing this anymore.
So you're seeing people wanting to, for lack of a better term, escape from this right now.
Exactly. Or they want to change the channel. Like, we've seen this show for enough. Now we want something different. It's an ongoing, almost chronic traumatic event without any clear indication of when exactly it's going to end.
For some people, the opposite is true. They're worried about going out.
It's a normal survival technique that we have. And at times we react to something fearful by shutting down.
When it comes to the fear of the unknowns right now, Dr. Birmingham recommends turning to the 3 R's to help cope with the stress: routine, relax, and relationships.
Having a sense of a routine is really important for developing the context that helps you endure this challenging time. The next R is learning to relax. I'm a big advocate on meditation, prayer, if that works for you. I recommend people not forget to have fun.
Relationships matter both with family and friends, but also with coworkers as people return to the office.
People need to know that they're being cared for. They need to know that their employer is looking out for them. They need to know that their coworker is being safe, and acknowledge that we're going to have various emotional responses to it. But then how do you reframe that into something that helps build resiliency? And one way I find is to not feel that we're all doing this alone, but we're doing it, together.
During Mental Health Awareness Month, Boston 25 is proud to partner with NAMI Mass for a virtual walk on May 30th to support their programs and let people know mental health matters. For more information, visit namiwalks.org/Massachusetts.
Thanks so much for joining us for this in-depth special on Massachusetts preparing to reopen.
All of us here at Boston 25 News are wishing you and your family good health.